I would like to know more about spirit guides. What is their purpose? What can they do? Are they always there? How do I develop more clear communication? Some days it's easy to feel connected. Some days it isn't. And so I'm going to give you my 1, 2, 3 about spirit guides, and then I'll give you a little bit that I kind of play with and that I've learned in my work as well. I believe that we each have at least 2 spirit guides when we come into this plane, when we come into the womb and when we're born. All right. And we're going to typically have a non-humanoid one, one that hasn't, if they've been a human, they're a master, or they're like so ascended, they don't worry about this stuff. And we typically also have some kind of a spirit guide that's been a human, maybe an ancestor, or whatever. So like my oldest son, Michael, who doesn't really believe in this stuff, except it always works. So he just thinks I'm spooky. He goes, Mom, you're just being spooky again. He has Jesus. He's not Christian. He doesn't care about Christianity. But he has Jesus in my dad, he was the only grandchild who ever knew my dad. My dad died when Michael was about 8 or 9. And he still senses Jesus and my dad. Like when he's in trauma or pain, he's admitted that he can feel Jesus there or my dad there. So my dad, of course, was alive when Michael was born, but so it's not hard and fast if they're dead or alive, but their soul is always interconnected as well. And then we get spirit guides that come in on an as needed basis. So let's say we're going through a big shift or we're going through a big change. We may get a new spirit guide. We may get a new spirit team. Typically we have those 2 or whatever are our constants, but we can get a new one. We can get a new beastie. We can get a new, being that shows up in our life, a new cat or dog or rabbit, or something that their soul is helping us. We can get, different beings for different states. Now, what I'm aware of when I'm working with clients, so I do spirit to spirit, do the greater spirit, and then I'm even more aware of the different spirits that are in the room. So like I was working, do not tell I'm still seeing some people in person, but I use a lot of Clorox. Okay. Lots of Clorox. So I had a man in, I haven't seen him for years and years and years, probably 15 years. He's a doctor, but we did this huge session last time I was with him. Like God, he doesn't even believe in God. God walked in and we could both see God's feet. Like God was so big, only his feet were in the room. And so this gentleman comes in and sits across from me today and he goes, I don't know what you did last time. I go, I didn't do anything. He goes, well, I don't know what God's feet were doing, but that was really big. And so we did spirit to spirit back then, or some version of it. And the only being that came in was the Almighty. And then this archangel came in and I'm like, whoa, this is like an important dude who's getting the very top treatment. Typically, after I do the greater spirit, I get different guides, and I know some of them are my clients' guides, and they can be very chatty, or they give me pictures, but they'll give me information the way they send it. So sometimes I can't hear them. Sometimes I just get pictures. Sometimes I just get words. Sometimes they give me feelings. So they give me how they communicate, and I have to adapt to them. And then sometimes I will get my guides interpreting their guides. So it gets to be a full party, like when you're really zinging at it. So like once this guy was sitting across from me today, and we chit-chatted about whatever it is that happened. And he was asking, a couple questions, and like I could see his guide, this big white guide right behind him. Like I could see him with my eyes. And then he stepped forward and started talking, but neither of us could really understand what he was saying, because it was all this stuff about his pattern, a psychological pattern, and how he doesn't know that he deserves to be focused on, sort of a normal issue for a codependent, and this kind of stuff. And then, but he wasn't understanding what his guide was saying. So my guide started talking and said, look, just tell him this, because mine are pretty clear and to the point, sort of rude sometimes. It's sort of like, boom, 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 boom. And they just said, give him an example of how your boys, like, don't let you ignore what they're feeling. They'll just say, stop it. Don't be that mom, which they'll say, right? And so I gave him some examples, and then he could get it. But that came from my guides. So we will have, my experience in a session is we will have whatever guides need to come to show up, they will show up. And sometimes there's hanger-oners or not good ones and interfering ones. And like I've shared before, I typically can smell them. Like they smell bad. They smell like smoke or muck or something bad. So, you know, or I get like a really cold feeling or a super sweaty, a bad, sweaty, sick feeling, or I get sick to my stomach. And when that happens, I always go back to spirit and say, is there like a bad one in the mix? Like, is there, you know, like an interference in here? And that's sort of how I can zoom in as well. So that may help, you know, a little bit. Some days it's not all on us that they don't connect with us. Some days I think we're just deliberately left alone. It's like, maybe they have other things to do. Maybe they just don't think they're needed. Maybe they're like, look, you just got to put your tennis shoes on today and get through the day. We're not going to leave you alone. So just go do human. Like, we're around, or we're taking a coffee break, or whatever they're doing. You know, they're aware of you, but they're not tuned in. So, you know, sometimes there's just nothing to hear, or you're just supposed to make it up yourself as you go along. So, you know, that's, you know, and sometimes we're not in the place for it. So I think I told this group, you know, too, that like after all this coronavirus, like there's no toilet paper, go get your stuff, like whenever it was, it feels like 10 years ago now, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever. I was just like a dingbat, like, oh God, I got it to get to Target. I got to get here. I got to get there. We got to get barbells. We got to, you know, do this. We got to do that. Gabe's girlfriend's in town. Is she going to be okay? You know, I was just so not listening to any guides. I don't even know if I did spirit to spirit. I probably didn't for like 2 straight days. Like, you know what? We're human. And I'm like, I got to do it all. Sounds like my issue. And then I sprained my ankle. And it was like, it helped because I went in my body. And I was like, okay, I get it. Like, get in your body and listen. So, you know, sometimes they get messages across like a little push, you know, or a little reminder, not in any dangerous way, but it's like, look, this is not going to serve you. So just look, we're going to make sure you know you got to shift a little bit. So they'll get your message across if you need one.